place at the moment here because he's having to defend so much from diagonal behind. He's not really getting the chance to line up Boivolov properly. He's had a couple of half-hearted moves at that final hairpin, but alas can't make anything stick, and every time he does have a go, immediately diagonal's on his case. So really not an enviable position for the Italian driver at the moment. Again, looking back to this midfield battle, battle for the lead, it's still pretty solid, just above 2 seconds. Very little change in terms of the gap. Again, still 2.2 seconds has been the case for quite a few laps now. Diagonal, he's finally made the move stick, I think, down the inside. Lucarelli waits too long to try and shut the door, and finally, Mark Diagonal moves up to 7th position. Let's see how quickly he can dispatch Alexei Boivolov. Lucarelli had plenty of laps to make a move, couldn't make it happen, and you just sort of imagine, speaking of Joneses, there's Diego Alvarez Torrenti trying to emulate his teammate, albeit for the very lowly 16th position up against the Yamaha of Barry Mori. Certainly this midfield battle, the closest and most interesting fight we seem to have at the moment. Everyone else spacing out just a little bit. Although here goes Mark Diagonal trying to make a move on Boivolov already. Only a lap after he took the previous position. It doesn't look like he's made it work though. Director cut away, but from the live standings it would appear Boivolov has been able to fend him off for now. You'd imagine though it is only a matter of time, especially with still over 100 laps to go. He'll have plenty more opportunities to try and make the move stick, although if he does want to compete for a podium this weekend, he'll need to make it sooner rather than later. Shane Walsh, meanwhile, still in 11th. It's been 10 laps now or so he's held that position after initially losing some positions to Dagnall and Philippe Nicolas. Still holding station in 11th, so really promising stuff there from the American rookie. Front runner in F2 RWRS last year, the final ever season of F2 RWRS. I think he finished about 4th or 5th in the championship, obviously not quite as highly placed as his compatriot Dan Greenlaw, and wasn't really in the championship fight per se, along with Greenlaw, Nicolas and Hawken. Those 3 protagonists were fighting tooth and nail for that junior title last year, and Walsh sort of in the next level down, which, although understandable given he was a rookie when the other 3 drivers in question had raced in the series before. So certainly Walsh, talented young driver, stuck in a bit of a dud car, but finally he's been able to make the grid and showing what he's made of today. So if he can keep that car on the island, who knows, with all the attrition we've had so far, if that rate of retirement keeps up, he might even scrape a point. Oh, I say that now, he's just thrown it in the wall. Commentator's curse at its finest. Oh my goodness, Shane. Why would you throw it away like that? That's so unfortunate. Gillet finally looking competitive for the first time in a very long time, and Shane Walsh throws it in the wall, just like Van Gijkens, just like... Oh my goodness, I'm already forgetting who it was that threw it in the wall earlier today. Anyway, that's so unfortunate for Shane Walsh. So unfortunate for the Gillet team as well. Finally, after all that hard work and grind, it finally seemed like the luck was turning. Alas, their best chance of a point or anything representing a good result gone in a flash. Especially with teammate Aurélien Moll all the way down in what must be, I think, 18th position at this point. Things not looking good for Gillet now. Such an unfortunate way for their weekend to go. There's a man we have seen very little of today, in fact, Alberto Cara, locking up going into the hairpin. Can he at least recover it before he ends up in the wall? Yeah, he gets it back on course, but that will have cost him a couple of seconds. Might have scrubbed off some grip from his tyres as well. Luckily he's got enough time in hand on Alexei Boivolov that it doesn't cost him any positions, but that will certainly hurt him in the quest to try and catch Daniel Melville ahead, who, surprisingly enough, the MRT, one of the best cars in the field, and yet so far unable to make any inroads on Daniel Melville in that Yamaha car. Here comes Daniel down the inside of Alexei Boivolov. Job done. Nicely done. Up to 6th position now. Cara better watch his mirrors. That car is looking racy despite the power deficit. Dagnall determined to get to the podium, and who knows if he can clear the cars in front, maybe even challenge for the win. His teammate on the other hand not having such a good weekend. Down in 16th place, unable to pass that Yamaha of Barry Mori. Barry Mori, bit old, bit slow, not really sure why he's returned to the sport. I do understand he won the Japanese Regional Series last season, but there were some question marks over the parity between the cars there, so perhaps assisted a little bit by having the best technical package. Nonetheless, I suppose it validates him having a drive to begin with, given some of the other drivers we have attempting to qualify at least. Maybe not the guys who've actually qualified on this occasion. Most of them have demonstrated their talent at one point or another. Very few god-tier scrubs, as you might call them, in the field today. You know, you have the likes of Toyo failed to make the grid. Oh, Torrenti getting very desperate and almost throwing it straight into the back of Mori there. Now, obviously I was taking time to sort of rub salt in wounds for Mori, but to be fair, that was all Torrenti's fault. Got locked up entirely trying to make the move. Mori had closed the door nice and early, and Torrenti really looking visibly frustrated now that he can't get the most out of that car like his teammate Mark Dagnall. You know, there've been a lot of rumours about him leaving the sport. Oh my goodness, Carrot's just thrown it in the wall. He's buckled under pressure and just sort of ebbed right into the fence under braking. Is that a brake failure? Oh, his front wing's just failed. Oh, it's a suspension failure. I see, the suspension's collapsed. That's broken his front wing. Fair enough, not a driver error on my part. Back call from the commentator once again. A suspension failure robs Cara of yet more points. Last time out, the engine failed on him with only a handful of laps left to go when he was running second, and yet more points go begging thanks to another technical failure for the MRT. Philippe Nicola ought to be worried with how many of those there have been of late with those technical issues for the MRT. Is that Torrenti in the wall? Torrenti's gone and thrown it in the wall. You saw just a couple of laps ago how desperate he was looking to get past Mori, and frustration's just gotten the better of him, and he's thrown it in the wall and lost the right rear wheel just like so many others before him. Cars starting to drop like flies, and it's almost always the driver's fault. It'll be interesting to see what kind of driver we're going to end up in 6th place at this rate, because we are losing quite a few guys to this. Speaking of 6th place, this is the battle for 6th place. Alexei Boyflov still holding up Alessandro Lucarelli. I say holding up, it's been so many laps that he's been stuck behind now. You might argue that's actually where Lucarelli deserves to be. And certainly the gap is starting to ebb out a little bit, enough that Boyflov has time to react and doesn't have to defend too aggressively. This is Terry Hawkin, he has to deal with lap traffic. That will be Marco. Oh, Marco Janša blocking aggressively even though he's a lap down. Not quite sure what Janša's trying to prove with that kind of move. He's a lap down, he really should be getting out of the way as Aurelian Moll barely avoids putting it in the wall. Or has he touched the wall there? Looked like he locked up slightly on the exit there. But keeps it going for now. 17th place, about as good as you really could hope for, I suppose, when you've not got your best driver at the wheel anymore. But yeah, not really quite sure what point Janša was trying to prove by getting in Hawkins' way there. Not really anything to be gained for Norman and themselves by blocking Hawkin, given they're nowhere near each other in the standings for either championship. So a bit of an odd one there. Who knows, maybe he has a friendship with Bastian van Nieuwenhuizen we don't know about, despite the fact they were title rivals for the Auto Reject 3.5 series last year. Of course, they were locked in a season-long, very close battle as well in the last race of the season when it started pouring with rain. Van Nieuwenhuizen retired from the heats. Janša had a chance to win the championship and couldn't take it, bottled it in the final race of the season and couldn't accumulate the amount of points he needed to surpass Van Nieuwenhuizen in the championship. Anyway, going back to the current midfield battle, again Lucarelli not quite close enough to make a decent move. He's picking the wrong points to try and make his overtakes, I think. He should really be leaving a little more time to build up the pace, to build up some rhythm and momentum, just to make sure he can slingshot in one smooth movement rather than these sort of rapid, half-hearted moves that he's attempting at the moment. And again, I was just saying it there, half-hearted move. He was way too far back to make that work, and yet he sort of jolted out of the racing line anyway. That will have cost him on his way out of the corner. He really should have been more patient there and just focused on getting the job done at the turn 1 hairpin instead of trying to make it happen early. Jari Kekkonen, little offline there. Not particularly good season for him. We've witnessed him being very, very all over the place in the last few races, at least keeping it on the island for now. But I imagine that would be him about to be lapped by Daniel Melville and Mark Dagnall, sort of getting in the way there. Only there for, I was going to say only there for his money, but he doesn't bring any money to the team. In fact, he's a regular driver, salaried driver, possibly the worst salary driver in the field at the moment, given his dire results this season and how often he's planted it in the wall and planted it into other cars. Speaking of kicking in, this is his old team, and I believe this is his replacement, Marco Bizzarri, running in 15th at the moment. A little better than last time out when he was absolutely stone dead last and suffered a number of problems, including a broken front wing and then an electrical failure, as Jari Kekkonen is finally lapped by those two drivers diagnosed. Oh, Plaza! Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. We have another victim of the pit lane wall, and this time it's the Mecha of Jesus Plaza. Jesus Plaza, the Mecha actually having a decent turn of pace of late. If they can actually get that car to the finish, there's a half decent chance they could score a point or two. The problem... Oh, that's another car on the wall. That's another one on the wall. I think that's it's Janschar. It's the other NRE of Marco Janschar. Goes and does the same thing as Plaza on the same lap. That's incredible. The timing, the coincidence is something to behold. So we're down another two cars. And so we're only left with 13 on the lead lap. That yellow flag might compromise Lucarelli's attempts to try and make him move here, although to be fair he's a little far back. But yeah, certainly that last final turn wall is claiming a lot of victims today. None of them particularly high profile so far, but it'll be interesting to see if those guys near the front can keep it out of that wall, given the difficulties the midfielders have had keeping it clean out of the final turn. Just maybe picking up some of the marbles on the exit, drifting a little wide, whacking the wall and breaking the suspension and ripping a wheel off. And speaking a little earlier about the fortunes of Gillet, now they've lost Walsh. There are only 16 cars left, meaning Moll is 15th, and who knows, could manage a top 10 if this incredible rate of attrition keeps up. The gap between Alessandro, we were talking about it earlier, the gap between Alessandro Lucarelli and Shinobu Katayama is getting smaller now, only 7 seconds separating the teammates, despite the fact they were something akin to 16 or 17 positions apart off the grid. So not a good start from Lucarelli at all. Conversely, decent enough drive from Katayama so far, obviously assisted with the mad goings on in the midfield with all of those accidents we've seen and a handful of technical retirements as well. Yet again, Lucarelli going for that half-hearted move down the inside when it's so easy for Boivolov to cover it. I'm not sure what Lucarelli thinks he's going to achieve by trying the same move over and over. Boivolov clearly understands the Italians' playbook really well and sees it coming from a mile off. Lucarelli needs to start getting a little more inventive with his ideas in terms of getting past. Otherwise he's going to be stuck in 7th place forever. Looking further up, Dagnall still behind Schiller for the moment, although you'd imagine it won't last for much longer. Dagnall proving it a little better at getting past these Simpson cars than Lucarelli at the moment, so you'd imagine a couple more laps and the job would be done. And it appears, actually, looking at the timing board, they are slowly but surely ebbing towards that third placed Yamaha of Daniel Melville, doing an excellent job so far to keep that position in third position. Clearly the chassis they inherited from the Revolution team that unfortunately wound down a couple of races ago is doing them a lot of good. And again, speaking of gaps, you look at the gap between first and second, again very consistent. But last time I checked, 2.2 seconds, now 2.4 seconds, so really nothing to choose between those two guys out front. And it'll be interesting to see whether they are both on similar strategies or perhaps one has an ace up their sleeve. It does look as if, though, reliability or driver error aside, it will be those two dueling for the victory. Boivolov decides to be a little more cautious and give a bit of space to Lucarelli there, who again tried his traditional move down the inside, and that's compromised him ever so slightly coming at the corner, but again the gap looks a little too big for Lucarelli to do anything with. Mistolio right behind seems to be biding his time, a little bit of a train forming at the moment because of this. I think it might just be a case of Lucarelli's going to have to try and force a mistake out of the Swiss driver. Sorry, not the Swiss driver. Speaking of the Swiss driver, Jean-Luc Schiller